Hi, I'm Paul. Welcome to MIG Monday. I get asked fairly often about MIG wires. What's a good MIG wire to use for home hobby repair or some small projects around the house? Well, the most widely used wire is an ER70S-6 wire. The things to consider when picking a wire, for the most part, is the wire size. Typically, you have 030, 025, or an 035. With 030 being kind of in the middle, that's a very, very good general purpose wire for general repairs around the house. The ER70S-6 describes the wire, and I'll give you a quick rundown on that. The E, what that stands for, it's an electrode. In other words, when you're welding with that, current is being carried down that wire to create the arc. The R means that it's also going to be the filler metal. It's a rod. That's what's going to become the weld metal. It's because it's going to melt and become weld. The 70 is a reference to tensile strength. Now, mild steel, which is what you're going to mostly encounter around home repairs and hobbies, mild steel generally has a tensile strength of around 36,000 pounds per square inch. The 70 in the ER70S-6 wire is an indication of the expected tensile strength of that weld metal. So you can see it's very good choice for repair of mild steel. And then the S means that it's a solid wire. Of course, we know that automatic welders have either solid wire or flux cord wire. But in the case of the S, it means it's a solid wire. And then that leaves us with the dash number, the -3 or -6. The -6 is the most widely used around the home, and the reason for that is the -6 is an indication of the amount of silica that's in the wire. That's the main difference between a -3 and a -6 is the amount of silicon in the wire. What that is, it acts as a scavenger. In other words, when you got the molten pool going, you got a lot of stuff going on in the pool. You've got, if it's not real clean, you might have some rust and some mill scale all mixing around in the molten pool. Those scavengers kind of bind to that and help rise and bring that up out of the molten pool. And when you're done, sometimes you'll see little brown glistening things on the weld, which are what they call silicon islands, and that's where it's tied up debris from the plate and brought it to the surface. So the -3 doesn't have as much in it, the -6 has more, which is why I say it's good for the home hobbyist, because in -3, that gets pretty widely used in industry, but those welds in industry generally are made on properly prepared material, clean. They don't have to worry about scavenging out stuff. At home, you're going to find a wide variety of obstacles to overcome, mill scale, rust, and so forth. So the -6 wire works pretty well for that. What I'm going to do is this piece of metal here has got light rust on here. Now, I've always indicated that you should always clean the weld as much as possible, get all the rust and the oil and everything off of that. But just for purposes of demonstration, I'm not going to do anything to this. I'm going to attempt to show you how the -6 wire helps me overcome some of this dirt on the plate. And then I'm going to make a bead on the other side of this plate. It's pretty clean, and I'm going to make a weld over there too. So you can see the versatility of the wire, and we'll be able to actually maybe see how that works, okay? So here we go. All right. What we have here now, you can see these little glistening, little brown, shiny pieces there? That's silicon that comes out from the scavengers in the wire. They don't become part of the weld, they just chip right off. They're almost like glass. So you can see, even though there's rust and everything, we don't have any porosity. We've got a pretty decent weld bead because of the fact that we have enough cleaners and deoxidizers in the weld metal. All right? Now, we're going to make the same weld, but this time on the clean side of the plate. And we'll see if we see any differences, all right? And once again here, you can see little bigger silicon islands on the weld here. So But again, they're just like glass. You just pop those. Always a good idea to wear safety glasses when you're doing that, even though you're done welding, because those are pretty sharp and they're hot. And usually when you do that, they either get you right in the eye or they catch on your lip. So you just want to be a little careful when you're cleaning up. But there you have the -6 wire. Very versatile, clean material, somewhat rusty material. And again, I also want to just reiterate, you always want to be as clean as possible, but we all know that sometimes that's not possible. So when you encounters like that, the -6 wire is your best friend. All right, well, I hope you learned something today. We'll see you next time on MIG Monday.